Hello everyone and welcome back to Angular Blueprint. In the last few lessons, we have answered some important questions like what is Angular, why should you learn it, and how does it compare with React and Vue. But today we are going to answer a completely different question. What actually happens inside an Angular application? When you click a button, how does Angular know what to do? Where does the data come from? And how does the screen update so quickly? Don't worry, we are not diving into code yet. Today is all about building a mental model for how Angular works behind the scene. Once you understand this flow, everything you learn later will make a lot of sense. But before we talk about Angular specifically, let's look how web applications have evolved. When most of us start learning web development, we begin with three technologies: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's enough to build simple websites, but think about applications like Gmail, Netflix, or Amazon. Those applications are constantly responding to user actions, loading data, updating the screen, and communicating with servers. Managing all that with plain JavaScript quickly becomes difficult. That's exactly the problem Angular solves. Instead of putting everything into one place, Angular organizes your application into a small manageable code. So, what are those pieces? Let's meet the team that makes an Angular application work. So imagine you are ordering food at a restaurant. The waiter takes your order, the chef prepares your meal, and someone else serves it. Everyone has a different responsibility. Angular works in the very similar way. Components coordinate what should happen, service handle business logic and fetch data, templates display information on the screen, and API provides the data your application needs. So instead of one giant file doing everything, Angular lets each part focus on single responsibility. This is what makes Angular application clean, scalable, and easier to maintain. Now that we know the team members, let's watch them work together. So let's imagine a simple example. We are browsing on an online store and we clicked on a button called load products. So here is what happens. The component notices the user click. It asks the service to fetch the products. The service sends a request to the backend API. The server processes the request and sends the data back. Angular receives the data, updates the template, and the browser instantly refreshes the latest information. It sounds like a lot of work, but Angular handles this entire process in just milliseconds. And once you understand this workflow, you will notice that almost every Angular application follows the same pattern. But you might be wondering, why go through all this structure? Why not just write everything in one file? That's a question many beginners ask, and honestly, Angular can look a little overwhelming at first. There are components, services, templates, folders, configuration files. It can feel like a lot, but that structure exists for a reason. As your application grows, organized code becomes much easier to maintain. Instead of rewriting the same logic, we start reusing it. Instead of searching through massive files, every responsibility has its own place. So that's why Angular is trusted by companies building applications with hundreds of developers. And now that we understand how Angular works, it's finally time to build our own Angular application. So in the next lesson, we will move from theory to practice. Together we will install Node.js, set up our own Angular CLI, and create our own first Angular application and run it locally. By the end of that lesson, you will have your own Angular application running on your local computer. If you have been following along so far, you are making great progress and we are only getting started. If you are enjoying this series, consider subscribing to Angular Blueprint so you don't miss the upcoming lessons. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next lesson. Until then, Build, learn, master.